Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brilliant Professor-ish podcast, where we empower high achievers to unlock their true desire and reach new heights of success and fulfillment. I am your host, Dr. B, your brilliant solutionist, your certified and credentialed life changer, and of course, the college professor turned life professor-ish. And today we have an extraordinary episode inspired by the movie The Last Holiday. It's an oldie, but I think it's a goodie. And this is an impromptu video because I literally just watched it and it is late at night and I was like, okay, I'll talk about it in the morning, but I was like, no, let's not put things off. So if I sound a little drained, it is because I am, but I wanted to come to you and share what was on my mind, get it out of the way so I can sleep peacefully tonight. So when I have inspired action, I want to make sure that I train my body to make sure we do things expeditiously and not always put things off. So that is why I have decided to just jump right in and record. Now, when it goes up, I'm not sure, but at least I get it recorded. So the movie The Last Holiday came out in 2006, and we're going to talk about some practical takeaways from the film that I think will just kind of help you along through life to go from good to great to phenomenal, because I believe, well, the people who are attracted to me are already like doing good in life. They're doing great in life. But what would happen if you were doing phenomenal in life? If you are new to me, I started recently sharing my overall big mission, and it's really to bankrupt the graveyard. You know, I want to help 1 billion people realize their untapped potential, and so that they can be the solution that they know they can be to other people, because we do have gifts and talents that are meant to be shared for other people and not just for ourselves. And that goes beyond just what we think, you know, our business or professional careers can offer. There's so much more. I know it sounds morbid, but as I've been really thinking and narrowing all of this down, I remember when I was a classroom teacher teaching middle school. And during the summer, we would work for this program called Tapping Talent Early. And it was all about helping like elementary students to realize like how gifted and smart they were before they got to middle school. And these weren't like the quote unquote gifted kids. These were the kids who were labeled average. You know, they weren't considered the lowest students. They weren't considered the top students. Well, some of them were, but not all of them. And it was like our job to kind of see, if given the opportunity, how far would they advance? Because we realized that a lot of students, they weren't in the higher level courses, or they weren't given the different opportunities because they weren't placed in that environment. So it just stuck with me, and I've been fighting it. But I was like, you know what about us as adults? What have we not tapped into, you know, after our school time, like in college, if you went the traditional route, or even if you went to the school of hard knocks, you still had to learn something along the way based on the environment that you put yourself in or the environment that you were placed in. But when was the last time you shifted your environment to tap into something different? So all of that in my mind as I was watching the movie The Last Holiday, thinking I was going to unwind, but here we are. So if you're unfamiliar with the movie, it stars Queen Latifah, and she is portraying the character Georgia Bird, and then Ella Cool J, the lady loves Cool J, Mr. Todd Smith. He is Sean Matthews, and the story revolves around Georgia Bird, who works in a department store, and she leads a quiet, cautious, safe life. Everything by the book. She doesn't do too much things that, you know, that's extravagant, except for like cooking. Like she'll splurge on cooking, but then that's about it. And she won't even eat the food that she splurges on. It's just something that she likes to do. And Sean also works in the same department store. So Georgia works in cookware, and then Sean, I think, works in outdoor equipment. I forgot, but something like that. And so she hits her head at work, because Sean comes and talks to her and she's like having a moment that she freaks out and bumps her head. Because it's like, oh my gosh, my crush is finally coming to talk to me. And that's what happened. And so she's diagnosed with a terminal illness and told that she only has 3 weeks left to live. I don't know about you, but what would you do if you had 3 weeks left to live? And I know, again, I don't mean to sound morbid, but I remember, and I'm trying not to be emotional. I know when the doctors told my mom, going on 11 years now, that she had 4 weeks left to live because of her cancer, she wasn't able to get up and run out and go do life. So I know sometimes, especially in the coaching space, personal development space, we talk about, putting ourselves in this situation. Like, if you only had this amount of time to live, what would you do? Like, sometimes the reality may be like you may not be able to do the things even with the limited amount of time. I used to do that too, but then it's like, why should it take that? Because there's no guarantee that the quality of your life will enable you to live how you want to live if you only had those 3 weeks left to live or those few weeks left to live. So anyway, let's perk this back up. So she breaks from her normal routine. She goes to the bank and she was like, look, just give me all of my money. And the financial planner is like, well, what's the deal? You've been so cautious in life. You've been saving. You are like the model person we like to have as a financial client. And so, what are you doing? And but then he was like, well, I know you are cautious, you're practical, you're sensible. I know you have something good planned with the money. And she was like, nope, I'm about to blow it all. So if you didn't know, if you haven't watched the film, she has this book called The Book of Possibilities. And it reminded me of the Life Book, this program by Mind Valley. And I've like modeled part of my coaching program around that, really exploring all of the areas of your life. So she has her book of possibilities, and it's like a vision board, but it's a detailed vision board. But I want you to look up, Life Book, and this is not an endorsement of Life Book or anything. Or you can just come work with me and we can create your own life book. But that's needed. But we'll talk about that later. But seriously, so she has this book where she literally puts herself into the life that she desires, even though it is drastically different from the life that she's currently living. But when she got diagnosed with the illness, she decides, why am I just cutting out pictures and putting them in this book? Or why am I cooking all of the fancy meals and I'm not eating them and enjoying them for myself because I'm worried about like my weight or things like that? So when she cashes out her money, she goes and takes this trip to this European resort, like 5 star. If it can be 6 stars, it would be. And I looked it up. It's actually on my vision board. It's called the Grand Hotel Poop, Pupp. And I looked it up. And so I was like, that's pretty cool. And what I did, like, her whole attitude changed after she accepted reality. And it's like, okay, it is what it is. There's a part where she books the ticket, which is like probably like $1,700 to go from Louisiana to the spot in Europe. And then she's uncomfortable riding on the plane, because she's in economy, and she's like complaining, like, we don't have enough room, this, that, and the other. And the flight attendant was like, well, if you would upgrade, if you were one of our first class clients, you would be in your own cocoon, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, excuse my language, how much is the damn cocoon? Because at this point, she's like over it. Like, why am I allowing myself to be uncomfortable? Especially like I had 3 weeks left to live. Why am I tolerating this? So she upgrades. And that's where everything starts to unfold. So this isn't a review of the movie. I just wanted to give you that overview because if you've been watching some of my other videos, I do talk about the practical side of living. And what does this mean? Some tips, tools, and strategies that we can use to go from good to great to phenomenal, from ordinary to extraordinary, and truly
turning our possibilities into reality.
And believe it or not, we've all done it before. Where you are now, it was once a possibility and now it's your reality. But I believe somewhere along the journey, we stopped dreaming, or we started accepting the reality as this is it, and we stopped exploring possibilities. But what if we did that again? What if we got back to that? So I'm going to talk about 10 takeaways that we can learn from Miss Georgia Bird from the movie The Last Holiday, now that you got some background information about the movie. So when she goes there, she is, well, let me get through the 10 points and then we can, well, I'll say this. She's a whole new person. But then I was like, she's not really a whole new person. She's showing up as who she's always been, but in a different environment. So let's get into these 10 points here. So, one point is embracing your fear and take calculated risk. So, I know, and I talked about this in some of my other videos. Sometimes it's like I want to get rid of fear. I want to overcome fear, but fear isn't really going to go anywhere. Like, stop trying to get rid of it. It is part of an emotion. Nobody's around here talking about, I want to get rid of happiness. I want to get rid of anger. It's like we don't want to show up angry all the time, but you don't hear people saying, oh, this stopped me because of anger, or I have an anger issue and this is why I can't move forward. So I'm also drinking tea, you all, in case you hear me pause and take a sip. So it's like, just at this point, just embrace the fear just like you embrace any other emotion, and then take calculated risk. Now, I'm not saying go out there and blow all your money like Georgia did, but honestly, if she thought she had 3 weeks left to live, then it was like, what am I saving it for? So I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your financial planner. But when you look at certain things in life, what you been wanting to do, let's say, is take a vacation, buy a pair of shoes and some earrings, or I know it sounds like materialistic, but in a way, it's like, what are you really holding out for? Again, this is not about blowing anything, but what are you really holding out for? And if you have an issue with material things, if you wanted to go after a promotion, like what are you holding back for? If you wanted to start a business, what are you holding back for? Like, take the calculated risk to do so. If you wanted to become a speaker, if you want to become a wife, husband, if you wanted to have children, whatever it is that's been floating around in this, because I know a lot of you all don't have a book of possibilities, and we're going to work on that. But whatever's been floating in your mind as a desire that will not go away, what is stopping you from taking the risk, stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the doggone thing? Because you've done it before. You're in the place where you're in, hate it or love it, is because you took some sort of calculated risk. And so, like, going out of your comfort zone, and I need to talk more about this. I'll save it, but I'll just share this part. Getting out of your comfort zone, I think a lot of us get out of our comfort zone, but we don't stay out of our comfort zone. We don't push the limits to keep expanding it. So it's like, for example, and then I'll move on. It's like, let's say you want to become a speaker. So let's say you go do a presentation, you build up all the courage, you do all the things to get you prepared for it. You do the one presentation, but it takes you like 6 more months before you ever do another one again, because it was like, oh my gosh, so shocking to the system, and it just took so much out of you. But then in those 6 months, you reverted to the old person you used to be. So now you got to rev up all over again and put yourself through all of the song and dance so you can go be the speaker. Where if you close the gap between engagements. Let's say it started off every 6 months, and then it's like every 3 months, and then it's every 1 month, and then now you're doing these things once a week or multiple times a day, and you just can't keep up with it. I think a lot of times we revert and slingshot back to our comfort zones, and that is why we feel fearful and we avoid taking the calculated risk. But we're no longer going to do that. In order to unlock greater potential, you have to keep pushing your limit line and pursuing the aspirations that you desire. And get this, despite uncertainty, you may not know what it's going to turn out to be, how it's going to turn out. Georgia had no idea what was going to happen when she went to the resort. It was like, look, this first calculated risk, I'm about to take all my money. Then the next calculated risk, I'm on this plane, I'm about to upgrade. And then when she upgraded, she got flown to the hotel by helicopter. She was upgraded to the presidential suite because that was the energy she started attracting. All right, so the next point is breaking free from limiting beliefs. And I like to also call them outdated beliefs. And a belief is anything that you believe, how you show up, the boundaries that you set for yourself, your values, like how you make decisions is all based on what you believe. And I hear this a lot in the personal development space, like, and I said it too, like, get out of your limiting beliefs. Let's shatter those limiting beliefs. But even when I was an educator, we talked about beliefs a lot, especially as it related to how students learn mathematics, how teachers believe students could learn, how students believe they could learn, and all of those things like that. But from research, it's like those beliefs got you to a certain point. And I'm not I'm careful to keep calling them limiting beliefs and just and transition to outdated, because the beliefs got you to a certain point, and if you didn't have them, and let's think about on the positive side, because we can always look at the negative, like this is why I'm in this situation because of my negative beliefs. So look at the positive side. So your beliefs got you there to a point with the life that you have, and that's cool. But when you want to go to another level, now those beliefs become outdated, and they no longer serve you. So if you believe that you were, let's talk about money, because that tends to hold a lot of people back. If you believe that the only way you can make money is to go to college, get a good degree, and get a good job, and then climb your way up the ladder, then that's a great belief to have in the beginning, because it's gonna push you through to go to college and get the degree and get the job. But let's say now that you started hearing about, the different ways you can generate money based on your intellectual property, your expertise, coaching, consulting, speaking, writing a book, all of those things. And it's like you've been exposed to that, but then, in your mind, now you have to wrestle with, oh, wait, I can earn money outside of just having this career. Is outdated at this point because it served you well to get there, but now your brain is expanded to something new, and now you have to shatter that belief, that outdated belief, and because it causes a glass ceiling. I used to talk about having a personal glass ceiling, and I stopped talking about it because people were like confused about it, but I was like, but it's true. Think of your outdated beliefs as a personal glass ceiling. That's the thing that's keeping you from going to your next level. So it's like if you don't shatter that belief of I can only generate income by having a job, then you're not going to explore the other options. Now, this isn't to tell everyone to go be an entrepreneur, because I truly don't believe everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. If everyone was meant to be an entrepreneur, the world would shut down, because we need people in different positions, careers, and companies, to keep things moving. But I do believe, and I said this, I believe everyone is meant to be a parallelpreneur, finding other ways to generate income for you, your family, and the true mission that you have on your life, because your one stream of income is not going to fund the mission of you. And that's not just talking about material things. It's like the things, the deep down desires that you have, opening a school, starting a nonprofit, uh, having a women's shelter. I don't know, whatever it is, that really big secret thing that you don't tell people about. I, I'm here to tell you, your job right now, it ain't gonna cut it. Just saying. That's why you are brilliant and have other ways you can generate income, and it's biblical to have multiple streams of income. All right, moving on. So with Georgia, she was like, she didn't have confidence, and she had to show up. She wasn't confident when she was at work, but when she was put in this environment, she was speaking up. She was saying things that she typically wouldn't say. She was buying clothes she typically wouldn't buy. She was eating the food that she would cook, but never like ate at home, because she was transforming. And it was like, what have I been doing, all of my life? So she was really turning inward and releasing like all of this self-doubt that was going on in her mind, those invisible barriers that kept her in a certain box at home. She was free. It literally took her going around the world to shed some of those thoughts and beliefs that she had about herself. So that was point number 2, which is break free from outdated beliefs. Now, moving on to point number 3. So, point number 3 talks about defining your true desires and understanding that success is not just about climbing the ladder, but it is about fulfillment and joy. I don't think a lot of people understand what fulfillment and joy really is. I invite you to go look up the definition. And I could tell you the definition, but I want you to start training your body to actually go do something so it will stick with you. Because you may be multitasking right now. And if I said it, it may go in. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then out. But if you have to go look it up for yourself, it'll stick. When you understand what joy and fulfillment really means, you have to see how that resonates with you in your body. And then the desires that keep coming up, especially the secret ones that you don't tell people about, once you understand what joy and fulfillment is, then you can really start focusing on your true desires. I know for me, I was like, well, let me go ahead and be this college professor. Well, at first I wanted to be the U.S. Secretary of Education. And seeing as how a lot of politicians are in like their late 50s, I got a chance to get it together. Not saying that's what I want to do, but I mean, not saying that that's the path that I'm on, but it's still a possibility for me. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. So that was, let's say that was a desire of mine. It still is. And now the path may look different, but it's still a desire. I don't share that a lot, but whatever. So think about your true desire. Now I'm not, look, let me back up. I'm not saying like that is my end all be all. I told y'all what my first, like my big mission is. But who's to say that may not be a path that could be a pathway to lead to that? I don't know. Let's keep the door open, especially since it's a possibility. But your desire, it may not be anything that has to do with your career. It really could be a nonprofit. It really could be starting a business. It could be moving to a new country, or whatever. So define your true desires and see how that aligns with understanding what fulfillment and joy really means to you. And this is going to take time for you to pause and reflect. I don't think a lot of us who are high achievers, top performers, give ourselves the space and time to reflect. Now, professionally, when I was an educator and college professor, we always had the students to reflect on every single activity. And then as a professor on the tenure track, I also had to reflect, constantly on my work. But then it wasn't until I really got into understanding personal development, personal growth, and personal mastery, all of that, that what about reflecting on who you be at your core, your values, and your who you are, your character, your personality, all of those different things. Do we take time to reflect on those? Because a lot of times those are indications of why we desire what we desire. I do believe God places the desires inside of us, but that means He also creates us with certain personalities to match those desires. So, are you aligned with your goals and your passions? Your true ones, not just saying, I'm going to climb this career ladder. There may be a desire for you to climb the ladder, but what if it was, but really, what if it wasn't? What if it's not your true desire? What if you were only doing it because society said that's what you're supposed to do and you were in pursuit of external validation? I'm just saying, one reason why I want to be a college professor and then go and be on tenure track and then move up to associate professor and then eventually full professor and maybe president of a university is because of external validation and what I thought people expected of me to do when I was in that role. See, happens to me too. So I want to give you that example because sometimes it can be subtle. It looks like a good thing, but it may not be your true desire. All right, number 4, we're talking about being able to embrace authenticity. A lot of us, we do wear masks. You know, we have been trained, and especially if you look like me, you've been trained to show up and show out in a certain way. And you know what I'm talking about. But for a lot of us, even if you don't look like me, you still have to put on the mask of presenting yourself a certain way. Now, this isn't talking about, professionalism, showing up as your best self, you know, this is putting on a front. It is I'm not talking about that because if you don't do your hair like at home and you only do your hair for work, that doesn't mean you show up to work with your hair messed up. that's not that's not being authentic. Like I'm just being my authentic self because this is how I am, at home. No, that's not what we're talking about. So let's not go to that extreme. But I am talking about let's just do something superficial, like your style of dress. Now, if you work in corporate, they may want you, I don't know, to wear a suit. I don't work in corporate. I never worked in corporate. I've been in education all my life. And some people could say, like, especially when I got to become a college professor, that's corporate. I mean, it is kind of a business, but y'all should see some of these professors and how they dress. So it's not like corporate. But let's say they expect you to wear a suit and they were like, we just need you to be in the suit. Well, you put on the suit, but what if your authentic self is like, I love color, I love patterns, and I'm going to wear this yellow and white polka dot suit to work. Now, if you're in law, I know their rules are a little different, so I don't know how that works. But truth be told, I mean, if that's like you, why are you like really holding yourself back? I think that's embracing your authenticity. And if you disagree, let me know down below. Years ago, there's the movement with Black women wearing their natural hair. And the crowd act is real. Like, who would have thought we needed a bill for someone to wear their natural hair? Because people thought it was, unkept, and that's why a lot of the sisters, my sisters were wearing the wigs, the weaves, the perms, well, it's actually a relaxer, the, what you call it? I used to get them, the wraps, with our natural hair, but we would wrap it down, get it flat iron, a good blowout and things like that. Now, this may be controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Everybody, all right, let me leave it alone. But your authentic self is I love my natural hair. I want it to be out and express itself. Why do I have to keep, quote unquote, taming it? So those are surface level things, but even in your personality, if you're bubbly, if you're energetic, but then as soon as you get to work, you turn that off. That's not a good thing. And when you start suppressing that, it doesn't turn out well. And we'll get to the parts of what does life look like if you ignore these points. So when Georgia finally gets to the European hotel and she's around the senator and the congressman and the CEO of the company that she works for, she remains she's her true self at that point. You can see her connecting with people when she was working back at the department store. Like people were still drawn to her but she was even more vocal and confident and outgoing and made bigger connections with different type of people, like I said, the congressman, the senator, the CEO of the company, because that's who she was at her core. So I'm not saying that you become a different person, but you will be surprised about who you are. Like what comes up, what's in you is going to come out. And if you put yourself in a different environment, you'll start understanding who your real self is to be. If you're struggling with that, that's probably because you haven't stepped out and given yourself the opportunity to embrace your true self. All right, point number 5, we're talking about gratitude and mindfulness. So, a lot of highly successful people practice gratitude and mindfulness. A lot of people do that in the morning. You can read a lot of successful people, millionaires, billionaires, CEOs, whatever the case may be. You can read their morning routines, and a lot of them will start off saying that they practice gratitude and being mindful. So, I wonder how many of us actually take time to appreciate the present. Yes, there are things in the past that a lot of times we try to go back and fix. Then we're always thinking about looking at our future selves. I even told you, think about your possibilities. But how many of us actually look at, well, what is happening right now and being grateful, mindful, and appreciative of what is happening right now? Even if you think all hell has broken loose, there is something in your day that you can be grateful for, that you can appreciate, and that you are mindful in the present moment, whether it's drinking a cup of coffee or tea, writing in your journal, looking at the sunrise or sunset, depending on, how your day goes, but focusing on the little things in life. And I know sometimes it's like, why do I have to focus on the little things when I want these big things happening? And I'm only saying that because I've been in that place, like, so what? But then it's like, it's biblical. Like, why would I give you more and you can't truly, truly appreciate what you have? And not even just being, oh, I'm thankful for this, because yeah, you can be thankful, but being appreciative, a deeper level of gratitude and gratefulness of what you have. And that's what George did in the movie. She understood, like, I am I am eating all of this food. I don't want any substitutions from the chef. I am going to live every moment and be thankful for it. She was so happy with the sheets that were in the hotel. And imagine like how your disposition would be if you really sat down, looked around, and you were present in the moment and you were showing gratitude and appreciation for your life, because it truly is the little things that make our lives extraordinary. We think we want all the glitz and glamour, and that could be fun for a moment of time, but what about the times where you're sitting on the couch in peace and quiet, or you look at your family and or you look at your pet, or you may look at a pair of shoes that, like, wow, I remember when I couldn't get those shoes. Just little things like that. Those things I think don't compare with some of the grand things, because those are just for a moment. But you're always going to have the little things. And let me know your thoughts on that down below. So, number 6, empowering others and be a positive influence. Knowing that this life isn't just about you. You are here to inspire and empower and support those in your circle. And your circle could be 2 people, or your circle could be 2 million people. And I know sometimes it's like, but what about me? Well, then if you don't focus on you, just like I said, like your life is meant to inspire and empower other people. That means when another person shows up and be their best selves, and then they can empower others and be a positive influence, it comes back to you some way, somehow. So it's like, stop worrying about somebody always pouring into you, and you're waiting till you're filled up before you can pour into somebody else. Now, let me not confuse you, because you will, or maybe you have heard me talk about fill yourself up first and serve from your overflow. A lot of coaches do talk about that. I even say be self-centered at times. But I'm not talking that's different. I'm not saying that you wait until someone because you fill yourself up with you and the things that you need. It's an internal game. So let's shift that. But if you want somebody to inspire you, empower you, motivate you, and do all the things, lead you, guide you, and you wait till you get everything from them before you can go be that for someone else, that's not the right move to have because it's when you're filling up someone else or when you're pouring out for someone else, there's always going to be someone pouring back into you. That's just how the laws of the universe works. Is the law of compensation, reciprocity, and I got to brush up on my law, but it just so happened. But you can't wait to empower others and be a positive influence because you're waiting on someone else to do it for you. It's going to happen for you, but you have enough to deposit, pour out into others with what you have. Now, again, let's not confuse that with you being all depleted and you know run yourself raggedy trying to serve other people and you have bitter resentment, you're playing the victims. I'm not talking about that. Two different things. So you want to make sure that you are in a position where you're creating a ripple effect for success. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out here and be a business coach, be a financial planner, like having someone. No, I'm not saying that, but who knows, like your encouragement, your smile, something that you post, that could be a way of empowering others and having a positive influence. And who knows, someone may have seen your post, your video, or whatever, and they took that and they spread that. And because you uplifted and empowered them, they were able to do that for someone else. So in the movie, Georgia did that a lot, especially with the workers. They're the hospitality staff. You know, a lot of times my grandmother worked in hospitality, and people who think that they are above the staff would just do the rooms any kind of way, talk to the people any kind of way. And my grandmother used to step in like, hold on. What y'all not gonna do is talk to my crew like this. Because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have a nice place to sleep, rest, or whatever. So she stood up for them. And that's what Georgia did in the movie. She was like, look, you're not gonna talk to the staff any kind of way because you think that they're beneath you. You're gonna treat them with respect. And so by her stepping up, then the other people started treating the workers better. And the workers even got, something poured back into them and they started performing their work even better. So you just never know. All right. So moving on to number 7, work life harmony. We're going to throw a work life balance out of the window because balance isn't real. But you can have work life harmony. In my book, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment, I talk about the concept of discipline. I heard that from my coach, Dr. Tracy, and then I looked it up and she heard it from Dr. Michael Beckwith. Living in discipline means that it all works together. Like your work is so much fun. It leads over into your personal life in different areas of your personal life, your creativity, your family, your friends. It blends into multiple areas of your lives. It's not something that's totally separate. You have fun, and even when it's hard and when it's tough, it still like doesn't drain to the point of, oh my gosh, I hate this. It's like a full life. You're operating in your zone of genius, and it is like the best time ever. And you put yourself first. You're doing self-care, self-love, self-maintenance, but you're also, pouring into others because you feel full and they're getting your overflow because you're giving yourself everything you need so you can be everything, other people need, if necessary. But sometimes, like Georgia realized, I focused so much on the hustle, hustle, hustle that I forgot to look up one day, and then here I am. So make sure you focus on work-life harmony. So many people still talk about work-life balance. And was it Shonda Rhimes who said this? I hope so. But people are like, well, how do you do it all? And she was like, you don't. But she said you can have everything, just not at the same time. So find the harmony in that. And that's what Georgia did. She was like, okay, I've been working, saving, doing all these things, but I literally forgot to enjoy life, be adventurous, spend some money, have fun, talk to people I would never talk to, build up relationships and connections, and go after what I truly want to go after. And that was to be a chef. All right, number 8, taking time to reflect. I talked about that a little bit, especially with the mindfulness and gratitude. But reflection is an action. Like I know I reflect in my mind, or I'll sit here like in meditation and reflect. But then I started getting into actually writing. And then on YouTube, Dr. Kelly Austin, she talks about that, getting back to writing your reflection down. Like I said, I did that in my professional space. I did a little bit when I started off focusing on personal development, but then I got away from it because I was like, oh, I can just reflect and go through my day or my month or whatever I wanted to reflect about. But I didn't really write it down. But there's power in writing down your reflection so you can see, like, what direction am I going in? Do I need to reassess? Am I on the right path? So take time to do that. And that's what Georgia did. She was like, what is really important to me? The things that I'm doing now, are they aligned with my core values and my goals? And if you don't know your core values, I do invite you to figure them out, because they are your guideposts and how you make decisions, and they're part of your belief. So taking that time to reflect, if you made some decisions and you're like, well, I don't like that decision. Why? Was it out of alignment of who you are? And that could be it, but you may not know that, and you're going to find yourself keep making the same decisions because you haven't taken the time to reflect. So make sure you do that. Number 9, and if you watch any of my other episodes, this one comes up a lot. Cultivate resilience. Your get back up muscle, your bounce back muscles, how you handle setbacks, how you turn those setbacks into stepping stones for greater achievement. Georgia did that, and she showed a great example of being resilient and adaptable. Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of high achievers have strong bounce back muscles, are very resilient. But I think why that same bounce back muscle isn't propelling us forward, because at certain levels is really about your attitude and your character. And that's what I talk about in my book. Like, it's not just enough to get up, bounce back, and create new stepping stones. It is, what did you learn? Your character. How's your attitude during this process? Are you consistent? Are you still disciplined? And making sure that you come out better on the other side, because you can bounce back. You can get up, you can overcome and be hateful, resentful, bitter, but you're still moving forward. But your character and who you are at your core is not a great person to be around. So don't just get up. Check your attitude as you're on your way to bouncing back and being more resilient. And our final point before I get down into what will happen if you ignore these points: celebrate every success. That has also been a running theme in some of our other episodes. Celebrate every success. And even the small things. You see how these are building on each other? Like, if you're mindful and grateful and appreciative of the small things, then you have something that you can celebrate. A lot of us wait until we accomplish something major. And then when we do, yeah, we may celebrate, but our brain is like, oh, now you want me to do something? So let's think of college. And if you are new to me, a lot of my references are school related, because that's literally been my background for, oh my gosh, over 20 years. And so that doesn't mean I'm excluding you, but that's just my point of reference. So a lot of us, when we go to school, it's like, oh, we look forward to the graduation and we have this big hoopla for the graduation. But you had classes that you had to pass, assignments you had to pass, semesters you had to pass, a whole, different years you had to pass. Why wait until graduation? And why haven't you celebrated each one of those steps along the way? then transition into working in your career. Why do you have to celebrate when you get the title CEO, VP, executive, whatever? Why not celebrate? Wow, that project went really well today. Wow, the team came in on time today. Wow, I knocked this out of the park. Or look at this promotion. It's not CEO yet, but I climbed up here. Let's do a big thing. Because what gets celebrated gets repeated. And a lot of times for us, we'll have great things and we'll accomplish a lot, but then it's like, okay, no big deal. And then when it's time for us to move past our comfort zone, push our limit lines, we act like we haven't done much because we haven't trained our brains to look at the great things that we've accomplished. We haven't written out our badass list as a reminder of I'm that chick, I'm that dude, because we just keep it moving. I was doing the training one time for this big university and their department of education. And it was, and I talked about this celebrating yourself. And there was this lady, I think what was it? She had won an award for, I think, the best assistant principal in the district, like in the whole school district. She was the best assistant principal, like assistant principal of the year. She didn't tell her friends or her family or some of her, close people that work with her, maybe like in different, districts. They were in the same profession. She didn't tell anybody. And so what I did when we were in there talking and I heard that, and because she wanted to talk about something else, I said, can you run that back for me? What did you just say? And I said, can we all just take a moment to clap and celebrate her and say congratulations? And she broke down in tears because she was like, oh, it was just something to do. And that's what happens to a lot of us who are high achievers, going great in our careers, getting all of these degrees and things like that. It's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. So everybody's doing it. So what's the point of celebrating? One, everyone is not doing it. And I used to think that when I got my PhD, because that I was around all those people, but only what, 2%? That's the last time I checked of the world's population get PhDs. So no, everyone does not do this. And a lot of people drop out doing it. So how dare me not celebrate? Whatever you have accomplished, how dare you not
Celebrate it.
I was coaching someone and you can actually go see it. It's on my YouTube channel. I was coaching her and she was like, oh, I'm just this, I'm just that. And I'm listening like, do you realize how amazing your life experiences have been? And you are so focused on not having a degree? Like, come on. So that's why a lot of us get stuck and can't move forward because the brain was like, well, the last time I showed up and showed out for you, you didn't care. So why am I going to let you do more? So be sure to celebrate every success and milestone. That's what Georgia did, and it landed her on the cover of a ski magazine. She went base jumping. She was able to cook with the chef, get a personal table, win money at the casino, just doing all of those things. And she celebrated each and every one of those accomplishments because she realized she didn't do that when she was at home. All right, so let me know your thoughts on those. I will go through them very quickly again, and then we'll talk about what will happen if you ignore these areas. So, point number one was embracing fear and taking calculated risks. Number two was breaking free from limiting or outdated beliefs. That was number two. Number three was being able to define your true desires and realizing that success is not just about climbing the ladder. Number four is we talked about embrace authenticity. Number five, we talked about having gratitude, being appreciative, and operating in mindfulness. Number six, we talked about being able to empower others and how to be a positive influence because it's not just about you. Number seven, we talked about rethinking work life harmony. So get balance out of your head and think more about harmony in multiple areas of your life and prioritizing self care, self love, and even self maintenance. Number eight, we talked about taking time to reflect, pause and breathe and look at the direction that you're going in your life and seeing if they align with your core values and goals. Number nine, we talked about cultivating resiliency. on how to cultivate being resilient. And I said that's more than just getting back up. It's really about your attitude on your way back up. And number 10, we just ended with celebrate every success, like every small thing. And celebrate doesn't mean you have to throw a party for everything, but acknowledge it. And even if you give yourself a high five, pat on the back, or you go girl, you go boy, those are ways to celebrate. But don't even just get caught up in those. Like there are some times where you need to go all out. All right, so moving into phase two, and this episode may be a little longer than normal. So let's take into consideration what will happen if we do not apply these tips into our everyday lives. You know, we may encounter challenges and miss out on opportunities for personal growth and fulfillment if we completely ignore these areas. So what may happen? Well, number one, we can see a stagnation in personal growth. You know, we get to a point and it's like, I'm good. And you start focusing like on your professional side, but you stop looking internally and growing as a person and pushing past your limit lines. Like you always do things the same. You're stuck in a rut and you don't realize your potential to achieve more. And let's not think that this is only if you hate where you are. This is also if you are good and great where you are. You can still be comfortable. Let's say you make $5 million a year. And for a lot of us, we're like, oh, that, yes. But for that person who's doing that and they've been doing that for a while, it's like, why aren't you making 10? Now, I'm not saying that they always have to hustle, but if they're still on this earth and they're still able to generate income, then it just makes me wonder, like, have you tapped into your true desires and are you operating at your highest level? Is there something else that you need to fund? And why aren't you making 10 million? Now, this isn't all about money. I just want to give you that example. You know, it's like, or you could be in a great, loving, relationship with your spouse and everything is going good. Or it could be great. But would it be phenomenal if you started mentoring other couples? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if you don't keep taking risk or embracing the fear for those true desires, you end up being stuck. And if you're feeling like you're in a rut, it's because you have more things to do, but you haven't taken the time to invest in your personal growth, your personal expansion to understand what you need to move forward. All right, the second thing is staying in a state of self-doubt and outdated beliefs. You know, you're constantly being negative and it's hindering your ability to seize opportunities and you're undermining your confidence and your certainty to pursue your true desires. So if you don't apply those principles, you're going to be living in a cesspool of self-doubt, and self-doubt can be really sneaky, especially for my high achievers, because what we're doing now, like let's say our 60-70% is still somebody's 120 to 150%. They think you're amazing, but and you haven't gone up to that next level because of your outdated beliefs and your self-doubt. You want to be an entrepreneur, but you haven't taken a move, but everyone was like, they keep praising you because you're the CEO of the company. Well, your true desire is to be an entrepreneur. But if you don't keep working on yourself and get support, then you're going to talk yourself out of doing that and you're going to self-sabotage. Now, again, I'm not saying everyone needs to go be an entrepreneur, but I'm talking about avoiding your true desires and avoiding pursuing them. Okay. Number three, the pursuit of empty success. So what is empty success? Not really staying focused on your star player, which is you, and your true desires. Let's say you are a boss chick, boss babe, whatever the movement is, you're doing your thing, but you desire to be a housewife. Let's just say that. That's just what you want to be. That is, and it's cool. It's whatever. But because you are like, well, I don't want to tap in. People are already acknowledging me for my success. What would I look like if I just gave all that up, become a wife, stay at home, or do whatever stay at home wives do when they see me out here living this life. Well, if your true desire is that, who cares what other people think? Because now you're focusing on empty success, looking for external validation from people, and that's how you define yourself. But when you go home at night, even if it's this huge house, you got everything you want, you still feel unfulfilled and empty inside, and you're wondering, like, I have all of this. People say that I'm hashtag goals. Well, why don't I feel like that? It's because that's not your true desire. But if it was your true desire, you wouldn't you wouldn't be feeling unfulfilled and empty. And that's why I asked you to go look up the definition for fulfillment and joy, because you have to know what that feels like in your cells and your body, so that can be like your GPS, your guiding system to discovering, where am I pursuing empty success, or am I pursuing success that's going to leave me fulfilled and full of joy and operating in discipline. And it could be vice versa. You want to be, you end up being a housewife, but you're like, I'm meant to start this business, this company. But people are like, oh my gosh, that must be so amazing for you to live this kind of life. And you have to weigh it out. Like, seeking the external validation, is that worth you not pursuing what you want to pursue? Now, I'm not going to get too deep in this. I'm not talking about you go and tell your spouse, like, hey, I'm out. I decided to dump all of this. That's not what I'm talking about. Some conversations that need to be had. But I believe if it is a true desire from God, He will provide a way for it to work and have the conversations needed. So don't go and say, I heard this lady on YouTube talking about, I'm pursuing empty, success, and I want to be out here doing my thing, and you are in relationship covenant, and that's not what I'm saying. Don't put that on me. Excuse me. So we'll go through the next one very quickly. But if you don't focus on those things that we talked about earlier, you'll start focusing on superficial relationships, especially if you aren't authentic with yourself. How can you be authentic with someone else? And you're missing out on meaningful connections and true emotional support because you're not embracing your own authenticity. Number 5, you'll end up feeling overwhelmed and burned out if you continue to neglect being grateful, appreciative, and focusing on being mindful. Now, this is beyond the normal stresses of life, because we're going to have those, but they should not outweigh the good things. Like, they shouldn't be a constant occurrence. If they are, you need to check your gratitude, appreciation, and your mindfulness, your MAG or your GAM or your AMG. You need to check that, because if you're filling yourself up with appreciation, gratefulness, gratitude, mindfulness over the small things, those send signals to your brain, like endorphins. Like what did Elle say on Legally Blonde? Endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't do certain things. A lot of that is true and scientific. But if you're not doing that, you're going to be in a constant state of, like, extreme overwhelm and burnout. And number 6, isolation and missed opportunities. If you are so focused on you getting filled up and getting all the things before you can be that to someone else, you're missing out on opportunities. And again, I'm not talking about, not giving yourself what you need, filling your own cup and serving from your overflow. I'm talking about, you always want the mentorship, the tips, the help, the support, and you need all of that before you can go be that for someone else. That's not true, because you're going to be in, like, let's say you're in a constant state of learning. I got to get this right. I got to get all this. I got to watch all of these videos. I got to read all of these books before I can go do X, Y, and Z. Then you're missing out. And then you're so consumed with what you need, in that you end up isolating yourself and you're not sharing with others. Number 7, imbalance and neglect of personal life. Personal life is so many different areas. I talk about between 5 and 15 areas that you can explore in your life, instead of just saying, oh, my professional life, my personal life. We can break all of this down. And if you haven't broken this down, it's easy to think your personal life is only just your family or your social circle or your community. It's deeper than that. So get an understanding of the different areas of your life, and then you can see what you've been neglecting and how you're operating. Like, where's the imbalance or the lack of harmony that's taking place? Number 8. So if you don't make time for reflection, like true reflection and seeing if your direction aligns with your core values and your goals, then you're going to feel like you have a lack of direction, or quote unquote, you can't find your purpose, because that's the whole thing. What's my purpose? What's my purpose? Your purpose will reveal itself to you if you take the time to sit down and listen to your inner being, your inner guidance system. And of course, you can get external support like coaches, but it really starts with you. And the coaches, draws it out and brings it out and helps you navigate through it. But you are your first coach. And if you don't sit down and reflect, then you're always going to feel like you have a lack of direction and no purpose. All right, number 9, if you ignore the importance of bouncing back with the right attitude, you will find it very difficult to handle any adversity that comes along your way. You may struggle to get back up, or you may be in a negative headspace when you do turn those setbacks into stepping stones. So I told you, you can get up however you want to, but you don't have to be negative because of something that knocked you down. Like, yes, it hurt, it stung. They did this, they didn't do that. I did this, I didn't do that. I fell down and now I got to pick myself back up. Focusing on your character and your attitude, that allows you to be stronger for when you have another setback. Because just because you had one and you got back up, let's not act like another one is not coming. And this isn't saying like, oh, you're always thinking negative, but that's just how life works. Things are always going to happen. But do you have to struggle like with your attitude and your behaviors and your character every time adversity shows up? No, you do not. But if you ignore what I said about being resilient, then you will. And then if you neglect to celebrate your life, that could lead to a diminished sense of achievement. Like, you downplay everything. I did this. This is why I can speak on that. Like, I finished my PhD in 3 years and I was just like, all right, yay, go me. And I didn't do a big celebration. Like, yeah, after I graduated, I went to dinner with the family and friends and, we had a good time. But then it was just like, all right, on to the next. But understanding what took place, especially at the time it took place, then it's like I could have had a bigger celebration. Even when I wrote my 2 books, when I became a college professor, or when I got published in journals, when I got accepted at conference presentations and, workshops, when I, got, these big grant opportunities with my consulting company, when I was focusing on my consulting company, it was just like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And now my brain is like, you want me to do what? So you have a diminished sense of achievement if you don't fully acknowledge your progress. And that can lead to a lack of motivation and drive for your future endeavors. All right. So make sure that we take the points into consideration and apply them to our daily lives. So that way you understand if you're leaning towards feeling unfulfilled, a lack of purpose, or falling short of your potential. Understanding what all of this looks like is like, again, your guiding post, and you can take these lessons and integrate them into your lives so that you can be on your way to a phenomenal and rewarding journey of personal growth and success. So if you don't ignore them, if you do ignore them, you'll start feeling unfulfilled. I don't know what I'm doing in life. Why am I here? What else can I give? But if you do apply what we talked about, then you'll start seeing a major shift in your life, and you won't have those same empty feelings that you once had before. All right, as always, I would love to hear from you. Let me know your biggest takeaway down in the comments below. Let me know if something that you agree with, something that you disagree with. And if you disagree with it, let me know why you disagree with it so we could turn this monologue into a dialogue and have a conversation. I do read your comments, and some of the people that come in commenting, they may comment on what you shared as well. So don't hold back. Don't say, oh, this may sound stupid or this is too simple and plain. If it comes up, let it come out, especially if it's respectful and it could benefit other people. See how it starts that sharing for others and being a positive influence. All right, thank you so much for listening and learning with me. I know this may have been a little longer than our typical episodes, but if you have not watched the movie The Last Holiday, I invite you to go and watch it with these thoughts in mind. Again, this wasn't a review of the movie. I just wanted to give you, some background of what the movie was about and share those 10 life points that we can use to go from good to great to phenomenal. All right, so wherever you are in the world, whether it's at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, I want you to remember to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.